welcome, fellow environmentalists, to this discussion we're having from Impact Hub here in Lusaka. I'll give a bit of a background to why we're having this discussion. One of the many problems that we're facing as a country is the fact that it's very hard for youths, particularly graduates, to get jobs. So we thought it's important to have a discussion with environmental educators on what the challenges are exactly and how we can try and overcome those particular challenges. So with us today, we've got 5 environmental education graduates. On my immediate left, we have Geoffrey Daka from Westmaster Limited. He's the operations and environmental manager there. Welcome, Geoffrey.
Thank you so much.
Next to Geoffrey, we have Michael Mofialungo, who's the head of school for Wood Creek Preparatory School. Welcome, Michael. Next to Michael, we have Maina Malaya, Assistant Awareness Officer at Wildlife Crime Prevention. Welcome. Next to Maina, we have Julius Luwaya, who's the co-founder for Impact Hub. Welcome.
Thank you.
And thanks for hosting us.
You're welcome.
Both at the same time, huh?
Yeah.
Then lastly but not the least, we have Cholwe Luwambia, Community Engagement and Wildlife Officer at Wildlife Producers Association of Zambia.
Thank you so much.
Welcome. So to get started, I guess we'll learn a bit about your background. Where were you born? Where did you go to school? We'll start with you, Geoffrey.
Not a problem. My full name is Geoffrey Joseph Daka. Daka is a family name. Joseph is my dad's name, so that is where I'm also called Junior. So Geoffrey Joseph Daka Junior completes my name. I was born in Kalingalinga over 29 years ago, meaning this year I'll be turning 30 years. Then a brief background about myself is I'm the third born in a family of 4, and we are all guys. So that is brief about me. My parents are still alive, and they come from a humble background in terms of education. That's it.
All right. Then where did you go to school? Primary, secondary?
Primary education, I started from Lusaka Boys then in 1999. Then after spending 2 years, my parents could not support my transport fees and the like, so needed to shift to a school closer to my community, Kalingalinga. So grade 3 to 7, I was at Kalingalinga Basic, which is a walkable distance from home. Then grade 8 to 12, I did my junior and senior secondary from Olympia Park Secondary School.
Thank you for sharing that.
Okay.
Next, we have Michael. What's your background? Where do you come from?
I think to begin, I'm a native of Lusaka, born and raised. And during my formative years, I attended Vegetable Primary School and went to Lusaka Boys, and I was fortunate enough to go to a technical school in the East, and it's called Chisombe Technical School, which is a boys' school. And after that, I came to Unza and studied a bachelor's in education, special education with a minor in environmental education, and also a master's degree in clinical neuropsychology from the School of Medicine.
Okay.
So pretty much that sums up everything about me.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that. Next, Maina. What's your background?
I am a middle child. I was born and bred, obviously, like everybody else here in Lusaka. I had very strict parents, so I didn't know very much about Lusaka. I hardly know a lot about the city as it is. But yeah, I did my primary school at Treetops Primary School, somewhere in Kawata. And later on, after grade 7, I went to grade 8 at Just a Girls Secondary School. I wish it ended there. Unfortunately, I failed math very badly, so I had to resit one paper. I did very well with the other subjects and just that one paper. So yeah, after that I went to the University of Zambia, which is also a story for another day. But yeah, that's how I thought. That is the little background that describes who I am.
Okay. Thank you so much for that. Next, Julius.
Where do I come from?
Yes. What's the background to the mic?
I was born in Solwezi, and that was the time when things were not good in terms of economic wise, because the mines, the mine at that time there was only one, which is Kansanshi. And I went to a school called Kimasala Basic School. So I schooled at Kimasala Basic School for 5 years. When I was in my 5th grade, term 3, mom died, so I had to go to Mongo. So that's how I went to Mongo, and then in Mongo I went to Mulamba Basic School. That's where I did my grade 6 and 7. Then I went to St. John Secondary School, Catholic school. That's where I did my grade 8 to 12. Then from there I went to Unza, and since then I've not gone back. Yeah. Yeah, so yes, that's how I ended up staying in Staka. Just said, okay, even if I go back, in terms of opportunities, I'm much better off here. Yeah, my dad would be straightforward, he'd be like, no, with your paper, you can't come back to Solwezi, just be there. So that's how I stayed in Osaka.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for that background. Then lastly but not the least, Chom.
Okay, I was born in Lusaka. I'm the last born. Yeah, it's hard to be a last born. So many challenges. Yes.
Not privileged.
No. In my case, yes, it's a long story. I did my primary at St. Patrick's Girls, then I went to Lusaka Girls, then I did my high school at Lusaka High, went to Unza, nice experience. Yes, I think that's all.
So now that we've gotten the background from each one of you, in spite of the different backgrounds, you all ended up at UNZA studying environmental education. With Mike, actually, it was double major. So the minor was actually environmental education. So I'm particularly interested in finding out how you got to study environmental education. How did you pick that as your program of study? Joe?
I'll tell you my story. It's one that spans back all the way into my high school education. I got involved too much in the associations and also clubs at my high school, that's Olympia Park. In one of the activities that we engaged in, we had gender equality, then we had politics in my country, then we had environmental sustainability, which I was going to do in my final grade of my high school, that was grade 12. We were part of a global initiative called the Teenagers Project. So this initiative involved 3 schools in Lusaka. That was DK, Olympia, and 3 schools in Zambia. 2 schools in Lusaka, DK and Olympia, and Belembe on the Copper Belt. So part of the training involved a lot of collaborative initiatives to do with what was happening on the global scale. So the last program that I did was environmental sustainability, and I think it's from that point that I began to develop a lot of interest to do with issues of the environment. Then my passion was not to be at the University of Zambia, unfortunately. So I went to Evelyn Horn. Then at that time that already closed the application process in 2011. Then I went to Chainama College of Health Sciences. I wanted to do environmental health. But when I arrived there, I was told they had scrapped off the bursary for all intakes. They could only give now for January, but July, you needed to support your education. Then having looked at my background, my parents were not going to afford. So now I was left with one option, that was to go to the University of Zambia. So despite having good points, to qualify me to the university, my University of Zambia was not the best option. Then I looked at it now, I had an option to go in natural sciences, to go and pursue courses in environmental fields. Then there came also an opportunity to do environmental education, where it was direct entry. So I looked at it, do I want to go in natural sciences and not know what I'll do after 1 year, or I can straight away go into environmental education, where I know what I want to pursue. So I picked on environmental education, that was in September 2011. Then April 2012, I got my application that I've been admitted to the University of Zambia. I became the first one in the you.
Mike,
So that is how I ended up doing environmental education.
thank you for sharing that. Michael, how did you find yourself tackling environmental education as a minor?
Okay, initially when we came to Unza, my major was supposed to be special education, which is something that I was quite passionate about, studying from having a mentor and also role models that pursued special education and that ended up as lecturers, and others were even going into other fields. So it was a conscious decision. I looked at teaching courses that I was supposed to take, civic education, religious studies, languages, and for me, the decision that to fall into something that I thought I could live well with, which is maybe looking at issues that could impact further on what I wanted to study. So I wanted to just marry the two and have an understanding of the other aspect. For instance, when we came in, it was not an advisable thing for us to pursue special education with environmental education, which was a challenge actually. And over 4 years, you might attest to the fact that you are the one that was bailing us out. We couldn't even be allowed to take extra courses, and we ended up having 11, 12 courses per stream. And each year, we had to appeal to be allowed to sit. And it gave us something of a challenge actually. And we used to enjoy environmental education more because of the content it had at that point. We would look at climate change before it even became a popular song as it is today. This is something way back in 2012, and people are just having the realization that there is global warming, the impact will be huge, and if we needed to change our environment and our sustainable communities, we needed to pursue that. So for me, I thought it was a very good initiative. It was playful on my part, but it's something that I enjoyed, and for me to have a little chat with the lecturers and convince them that this is something I can see to can have very good points and grades at the end of the day was quite amazing. So over the 4 years, it was an interesting combination for me, and I feel it shouldn't have been scrapped off. Because equally, even in disability today, in special education needs and disability, we look at skills which learners from adolescents or children from to adolescents and also to adulthood. We look at having platforms where they can generate income for themselves instead of giving them to society where they have to beg and be given stuff. So for me, that was something of me being a rebel to convince people that this is something that we really need. Because today, this is something that I'm doing at my school, teaching kids with sustainable solutions and stuff that we can do in terms of them generating income after they leave the stream of school. If they don't go the academic path, then they should fall back on something, but it shouldn't have a very negative impact on the world itself. So it's something that I believe was God sent, and fate or luck or chance, I believe it worked quite well for me.
Sharing that. Mine.
These gentlemen have very interesting stories, unfortunately. This one will be a bit of a letdown. So, like Joffrey, I was also a bit active in school. I was, I think, president of the debate team at one point. I was involved in a school parliament club. So I knew that talking to people was something that I was interested in. But going to university, like I said, I didn't do very well in math. So I was trying by all means to avoid anything that was too involving. I had gauged myself. Listen, I've been to therapy. I understand that I am on a certain level and I didn't want anything that was going to need a lot of involvement. So I thought, you know what? I had a friend that was helping me apply and pick a course. So I told her, listen, I can speak to people. I think education is my thing. And she said, you know what, let's look at this list. Your points tally very well with this program. And we picked environmental education. I said, oh, this is fun. I had only come across something similar once in like geography at school. So I thought, well, this would be fun. And it had buzzwords like climate change and global warming. So I was like, oh, okay. Not a lot of people know a lot of things about this. This could be pioneering work. So yeah, that's just how I picked it. I didn't want anything too complicated, and I thought this would be a great fit for me. That's how I ended up with 4 years at the University of Zambia studying environmental education. I think I made the right choice. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. Julius, how did you pick environmental education as your program?
So the thing is, when I completed my grade 4, my sister, one who raised me, she suggested that I become a male nurse because she's a nurse. And then her husband, who is a teacher, wanted me to go to Nkrumah. And then my elder brother in Solwezi wanted me to go to Notek to do um, electrical something. And then my brother, who was at UNZA by that time, our first graduate, um, he wanted me to do geology because, like Geoffrey, I hold the good record in terms of points in our nuclear family. So those were good results, and there were all those expectations and wanting me to choose a very good course. But then, through interacting with friends and everything, I spoke to one of the teachers at my former school, and she was in the School of Education. So, and when you're in Mongu, growing up in Mongu, you don't see UNZA. I only saw UNZA myself after finishing grade 4. So, even what the version you get to have of UNZA is from stories or when you see it on TV, ZNBC. That's the version I had of UNZA. It only started making sense when my brother went to UNZA. And he was in NS, so, and then each time he would come, he would come like he has lost weight and everything. So my sister, and I'm the last born, so my sister would be like, no, I don't want you to suffer like your little brother. So that's how the NS thing like came out of the picture, and then I had to look elsewhere. And then I started looking in the School of Education. So in the School of Education, I didn't want to become a teacher. So I talked to someone, oh, there are courses which you can do, but then don't teach. So that's how environmental education. I have to debate either I do library and information studies or I do environmental. So I picked environmental because a very close friend of mine at the time, the sister was in the first intake of those who did environmental education. So that's how I got to know about environmental education. Here we are.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Cholwe,
Okay,
how did you do? How did you find yourself doing environmental education?
it was through a friend. Initially, I didn't want to be a doctor. I wanted to do nursing, clinical medicine, and applied China several times. Then one of my neighbor came to me like, oh, what's up with your life? I was like, I'm trying to apply. I was like, okay, apply at UNZA. Like, I don't know. Like, I should try apply for environmental education. Like, tell me about like, it's just like environmental health. So I was excited. I'm like, what is health? I didn't know what environmental education was all about. Then I applied. The first time I went for lecture, like, oh my god, why am I here? I was supposed to be health related. So it was through a friend that invited me to do environmental education. And yeah, it was amazing. 4 years. And at first, like I said, I didn't have passion for environmental education, but through interacting with people like Geoffrey and Julius, I developed the passion for the environment.
Nice to hear. So we move a step further. So now you've spent your 4 years at UNZA. You graduate. We get to the hard part, which most people complain about. How do you now find a job? So if you can just share with us what your journey was like after getting that precious degree. How did you find that job? How did you end up where you are today? We'll start with you, Joe.
Okay, first, when I was at UNZA, I used to do a lot of voluntary work with different associations. And when I was in fourth year, I had an opportunity to work for Drive Africa. It was a voluntary work. I used to do with communications, writing articles, has to do with entrepreneurship. So when I did get off some informal job, so when I graduated, I continued working with Drive Africa. Then a week after graduation, I got a job interview. Then I started working as an intern for Plant Pavilion Zambia as as an environmental education officer. I used to write books for environmental education, starting from grade 1, 2, grade 4. So I did. I wrote a couple of grades. Then after that, I stopped. I stopped writing. It was something else. I went through a lot of mental challenges. It was so demanding, stressful, and other things. Then I stayed That was in December 2019. I continued working for Drive Africa. Then at some point, somewhere in June, I was supposed to go for a military. That's another story. She knows the
You
story.
wanted to join the army?
Yes! It's a love story. I didn't cut my hair. It was good. I went through a lot. It was a hard time for me. And I started questioning myself, but how did I find myself here? I had an opportunity to be part of the mentorship program for wildlife preservation. They wanted people doing conservation, I think. Then I missed that opportunity because I was somewhere out of Osaka. Then after I came back, I got an interview from Wildlife Producers Association of Zambia. They wanted someone who did wildlife. Then I did environment education. Then I remember during those interviews, they're asking me questions that you don't have anything to do with wildlife, like just environment education. And I gave examples like I wrote different books. I write in books, I read things about wildlife, and also through attending events, I know a couple of things about wildlife. Not sure that I have the experience, but I have the passion and I want to be in the conservation world. It's like, okay, that's nice. You don't have like, I had literally zero experience with wildlife, but through my CV, shows that little voluntary work and me just attending these conservation events, it was more like a good package. Yes, a good package. Unfortunately, I didn't get that position, but later on, I was called for an internship program, and I did 6 months. Then after that, I have a new position. Yeah, I think that's where I am. So basically, where I am is through voluntary work. Because I didn't do voluntary work. It's one thing that when I'm applying, it stands out. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. You're with Wildlife Producers Association. Could you just clarify? I know a lot of people might be wondering what exactly is involved when you talk about wildlife production.
Wildlife production. So aside from wildlife, it's called wildlife economy. So it's involved with different ways how you can generate income, money from wildlife. So you have issues of people who are into game ranching, the private wildlife experts. So you have game ranching and game farming. So if I say game ranching, this is it's a big industry. So you have live sales, people who do trophy hunts, people who do game meat sales, some who do with lodging accommodation, ecotourism. Then mostly when you say game farming, it's just mostly production of game meat. Yes, that's the wildlife production.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that. Next, Julius, how did you find yourself where you are now?
It all goes back to UNZA. So what happened is that, like my comrade Geoffrey, were among the active students in our class in terms of voluntary work, belonging to this association and that. So that somehow helped us to gain the needed traction that you can present as um, experience and background to give you certain opportunities. So one day, should have been in early June 2016, yes, a friend of mine asked me if we could host a training for association leaders, of which with help from the Unzaso guys, I managed to mobilize people, and the learning took place. And the people who were coming as the main speakers, that is on the wall, as you can see, Martin Kalumbanda and I Kalumbanda. So when the training happened, they were inspired by my abilities to mobilize young people at a short pace because everything had to happen under a week. And we then started exploring how we could create more impact. And instead of just focusing on leadership, we thought we could expand that from leadership to other things, including creating opportunities that will lead to employment and anything else to create impact in the communities. So what happened was that that same year, 2016, we finished our exams, and then I was with friends at the Gomanix, and then Aggie called me. She said that she had a dream that I was in Cape Town attending this program.
Who's Aggie?
Aggie is my boss and mentor.
Okay.
So I have two. There's Martin Kalumbanda and there's Aggie.
Okay.
They're a couple.
All right.
Yeah, they are my bosses.
Okay.
So that's how she called me, and then okay, something in her dream. So yeah, so we then started exploring how they could get me to Cape Town because there was no money. So that's how I even learned how to write letters asking for sponsorship and for flights and everything. Yeah, so that's how resources were mobilized through Aggie and my sister. And I went to Cape Town. I was part of this training and I was among the youngest. So after learning, making some contacts, I made very important contacts. There were a few, but very important. So of the contacts I made, that's how the journey of establishing Impact and Lusaka started. I made contacts with the Tazoka, who is the co-founder of Impact in Harare, and also a Mr. William Chilufia, who is one of the managers at Havos, and also Madame Mebo Mwomba. So I met this in Cape Town. Oh, yeah, and Maria Kaima, who is one of the senior managers at Invest Trust. So that one event was a good opportunity for me to create opportunities like for myself. There was no money involved, by the way. They were just contacts. There was no money in the picture. So when I came, because that was in 2016, when I came back, so the team assigned me with the role of leading in establishing Impact at Lusaka. So the first 2 years after graduating, I had no what they call real job. So I would move around with a backpack and everything, like everyone else who has just graduated. And I was building Impact at Lusaka, which I couldn't even explain very well because even me, I only had the soft copy version of it. I didn't have the hard copy. But like through hard work and everything, we managed to get the license, Impact Hub license, and we were then permitted to operate as such in Zambia. And I was appointed the interim general manager for Impact Hub Lusaka. And the journey drifted from pure doing environmental related issues to focusing or transitioning to what is now social innovation. So if you ask me who am I won't say environmental educator, environmentalist, I'll say social entrepreneur because that's what I do. And my work in the past 5 years has been crafted to see opportunities in that regard. So I'm a social entrepreneur, and the work that I do through Impact at Lusaka is to support entrepreneurs and social innovators. So people who are looking for opportunities or want to create impact in the business sense, entrepreneurship sense, those I classify them as entrepreneurs, and the others who want to create impact but not using the business approach, those are social innovators. And for me, I come in now as a social innovator, sorry, who is able to guide others in seeing opportunities from an enterprising way. So that's how I got here. And in the process, I've managed to create opportunities for myself in terms of traveling and also just making contacts globally. But when I was creating Impact at Lusaka with my team, I was doing something else with Hivos. I was assigned to lead a group of young people, mobilize and lead a group of young people on this initiative called Sustainable Youth, Sustainable Diets, something. Yeah, I've forgotten. It's a long thing. Yeah, but the point was to focus on this project called Sustainable Diets for All. Then my role was to help integrate young people in the Zambian food system. And that ran very well from May 2017 until last year in December when it finally closed. And in the process, I gained some ground experience in terms of opportunities which can be identified in the Zambian food system and also including bringing young people in the Zambian food system. So that mainly has been my two main things that I've been doing the past 5 years after leaving UNZA, but mainly in the process I've become a social entrepreneur And going forward, I would still want to be a social entrepreneur. Yeah.
The last part you've talked about, I was going to ask you a question actually.
Okay.
Since you chose that path to, blaze a trail, do you feel you took the right path? Was that risk the right one to take? To seek a path where you create rather than look for employment?
Well, another background to this. So when I was in secondary, because we want to go to this organization, go to that one. So somehow you start seeing success or picturing yourself as working for this organization in future. But for me, this was shattered or changed when uh, the impact hub idea came up. So instead of seeking employment, the idea changed to creating, because even when I was starting Impact Hub Lusaka with my team, initially I thought it was an organization, but it isn't. So I had to do research and everything, and then I had a business. So despite coming from the school of education, where it's not business, courses are not anchored on business principles. So I had to self-teach myself. Like I have to teach myself the business tools and everything, and then with consultation from the people I had found in the network, and also from my mentors and bosses, they would recommend me to meet certain people and everything. So I have reached a point where I would say I made the right choice, and if I were to create more opportunities, maybe I would venture in what is called circular economy. Because for me, for someone who has done environmental education, I feel there are a lot of opportunities when you look at it from a circular economy point of view. But that is for those who are the business mindset and they want to go that way, because when you graduate, you either become a business person or you become the other person who is more seeking employment and something else related in those lines.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that.
Welcome.
We'll move on to mine. What has your journey been like? How did you end up where you are today?
Okay. I was lucky enough in school. I think this was around the third year. There was an opportunity that came up with an organization, a conservation organization, that were advertising for an internship, 3-4 months internship, and that was around the time that I needed to have done my internship. So I applied with a few of my friends. Luckily, I was picked. And I went there, I worked, I applied myself. And to be honest, it was pretty hard because one of the challenges I faced was I really didn't know much about work ethic, work culture. These are not things that they teach you in class. I don't know if they're supposed to, but that was a bit challenging. I adjusted pretty quickly, I think, and after 3-4 months, if I'm correct, I went back to school to finish my degree. And after I graduated, I started to work at a radio station. It's environmentally inclined. It's an environmentally inclined radio station. I think I stayed there for like a month or two before the organization that I did attach. I did my school or industrial attachment app called me and said, we have an internship position open if you're not doing anything, and if you're interested to come back, we would love to have you. Of course, I said yes. I went and I did an attachment. I did internship for 1 year. What I kept hearing is, "Oh, we called you back because we thought you were always very helpful. You made when you had relationships with everybody in the organization, and we thought we could have you back. You were very helpful and you worked really hard." Another thing that I did was after I left the organization, they usually had events, so networking events, a lot of them. So I attended a lot, not only mainly because I knew the people hosting the events, but also because like Julia said, I intended on making strong connections, if that's the word that's the word to use. But yeah, that's why I attended a lot of the events, and I think I may have. I want to say I made quite an impression, but not to toot my own horn. Yeah, I spoke to a lot of people. I got a lot of cards, got talking to many people, and yes, they called me back. And yeah, the thing I kept hearing was you were very helpful. We like how you speak to people and you communicated to people. That was very helpful. After a year of internship, I finally got employed by the same organization, and that's where I am at now. That's how I got to where I am.
Okay. So WCP, Wildlife Crime Prevention.
Yes,
What exactly is this organization about?
well, I would really like to focus on the department that I work in, which
Mhm.
is the awareness department.
Mhm.
I love how, first of all, the work that I do is something that I sat in class and actually learned about. It's something that I get to practice every day. The awareness department goes beyond just getting people on books or getting people aware of, oh, so we have pollution and this is how it happens. We take it a step further and actually educating people. So people want to know this information, whether they do or whether they don't. As a mother that is selling my tomatoes in the market, I don't have time to start reading the many articles that come from all this research that is being done. Our job is to make sure we get this information and reproduce it in a way that anyone can understand it. And it goes beyond just understanding. It needs to be information that I feel is related to me. That if anything happens, I could be impacted, and I can also make a change if should I decide to do something. So mainly that is what we do. We run different campaigns, we work on different campaigns, and we run different campaigns. Something that comes to mind now is like what you're doing here. The department and the organization has noted that there are a lot of challenges with students getting from school, trying to get employment. So something that we did was create a platform called the Conservation Careers Fair. So what the Conservation Careers Fair does is just bring all recent graduates or students from different universities. Usually happens annually at the Monubushe Conference Center and virtual now because of the current health situation that we're in. Yeah, so it brings people together just to let a lot of people know that, well, we have very few indigenous Zambians in conservation, and we need a lot more Zambians in conservation if we're going to make progress. I need to understand what is happening all the way in all these the local communities near the game parks for me to think about for me to think of the change that needs to be done. So we bring different conservation organizations. They will be there talking to different students, telling them what they do. Most importantly, they always bring out opportunities that they have, be it voluntary opportunities like a lot of my colleagues here have benefited from, voluntary opportunities, internship opportunities, job opportunities. Aside from that, there is a whole website created just to provide information about different opportunities in the conservation sector.
Thank you for sharing that. Mhm.
You're welcome.
Next, Michael, what was your journey like from graduation to heading uh, a formatory or preparatory school?
Preparatory school, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so for me, I think the turning point was in my third year. A friend of mine was working for Airtel Zambia, and he called me for an interview. I attended it, and it was just a way of just making extra income. That's how I got that job, and I was there for a month. And Samsung Zambia came calling. I worked there as a student. That was full time, and it was the biggest regret and challenge that I faced with tertiary education in Zambia. And this is a point that I might even just need to make an appeal either to the parties involved in ensuring that students are not just supposed to be kept dormant. We're supposed to work and fend because this is something that's a trend in other countries. We've got friends now that can travel abroad and be in school in tertiary education, and they'll tell you of stories of how they're working, how they're even making extra income. But with us, it was you're a student, 6 to midnight, you're supposed to just be involved in books. It doesn't leave us with space to say, I could get an internship, or I could have a very well structured timetable, or even just a course load in terms of me managing my time and going out there. And this is one of the challenges that I've seen that is affecting even the implementation of maybe public universities scrapping off bursaries and also meal allowances. If such considerations could be put in place and also come on board, it would just help a lot of people because not many people want to come in for school at 18. It's quite okay for people that are in service. They have the income. But for a student, like for instance, for me, I come from a compound and I don't get bursary. What happens? Either I drop out or get frustrated or just take the negative path actually. So that's another way that I looked at it. And the first 6 months of me working full time and balancing school wasn't easy. This is something that most lecturers half couldn't understand and they couldn't even comprehend what I was trying to do. I was this is something that I even talk about proudly. I was one of the smartest actually in that cohort. So it wasn't a thing or any challenge in terms of me saying I could get grades. I would challenge even the same lecturers and tell them if I don't get this, then take me out of your course and I'll do it. So it was a way of me just having that resolve and just having the conviction that I needed the money to support myself, support my kid sister who was in school, even supplement at home. So during that process, I learned so many things in terms of resilience. And going into my fourth year, I even had the chance to be, at some point, even working for one of the biggest chain stores actually when it comes to mobile devices in Zambia, Telefonica, and I had a very good brother in Ibrahim actually. He mentored me, and it was at that point where, after I graduated, I was the best student in project management. It was a thing that even just gave me the resolve to think outside the box, and this is where I sat and realized that I couldn't just sit. And also the exposure, for instance, maybe I was fortunate enough to understand that there was money, serious money that could be made out there. And this didn't even require me putting on a suit or sitting in an AC powered room or even just traveling. It's something that required me to have a conviction that I didn't need to take the secular or even just going into the job market looking. I could make those uh, platforms for myself. So working for him actually meant it was rigorous actually. It meant us meeting targets, talking to people, just pushing yourselves every single day without an off day actually. So Sunday was when we just rest, and it was that point that taught me so many values actually and ethics. He mentored me just like his kid brother, and he used to tell me about me having my own school. He told me what was the point of me working for someone else when I could get all these good grades, I could think, I could make innovations myself. And it was there that after I left, I was also, again, not lucky this time around, but my work spoke for itself. I was taken to an international investment firm. So from there, my path changed towards being an investment consultant. A totally new game, new field, different uh, settings, actually, conditions. And what was required of me there was to convince people. I've worked on very big projects today that if people realize that I was the one that was doing them, they would even say no. Because they would look at mafia that came from Munza or the mafia that came from Galingalinga, went to Chizongwe, and ended up sitting on very high profile meetings. And I would be telling people about how to invest. And it was through that process that I gave myself a target. I decided to go to study neuropsych at school of medicine. I was lucky, got into that program, I excelled in it. And during that phase, I was working as an investment consultant, involved either with setting up investment firms in Zambia or even just advisory services. So this is something that I had to teach myself. I had to read books. I had to even get how to get your the favorite book out of this was How to Get Your MBA in 10 Days, which is ridiculous if you look at it, but it's something that I read and I started looking at people that are already in that field. So for me, it was a learning phase. I knew the end game, but it was a principle I gave myself to say, if I'm going to mop the street today, I would rather be the best at it. I did it, and I don't have any regrets with doing that. And when the time came for me to, towards the end of my master's, I started positioning myself towards leaving. I got a very good job with an international school, and I was there for 9 months, all for just learning, seeing how international schools were set up, and I was maybe a spy. Who knows? It was just teaching myself. So I went there and I had to just learn and understand certain aspects of coming from a public school. Trust me, international schools are at a whole different level. What we do might seem as if we're joking. It might even be compared to playing, actually. So it was that resolve I needed to get that understanding. And after that, the masters came to an end. I defended and I left. I spoke with my supervisor then. I told him I didn't see myself working for anyone. sadly. And it was in that process that God and also self-belief, I met a parent who was very convinced with I was working and the results they saw in their child. Because when I started working in rehabilitation, that was the turning point because I knew that this was it now. If I was going to go back with my master's degree to job hunt or create opportunities for myself, it was that position and that period. So started moving with a backpack. I would go move house to house, teach children that are on the spectrum, special education needs and disability, applied myself, and with that and the level of exposure that I got, and also all these factors surrounding me at that point, I knew how to see opportunities. I knew this is what I was doing, investing in advising people that were coming with their money to set up and establish very big firms in Zambia. So it was the same thing for me. I never had the money, I had the social network, I had the contacts, I had the clients that believed in me. So it was that position that I met one of these days with the guy that, the gentleman that actually partnered with me to set up a school. And today, where we are speaking, we are running one of the very best special education needs schools, one of the first actually in Zambia. And with regard to that, it was a decision that I made. The temptation was huge to get jobs that would pay me triple what I'm not even making now. So knowing that I had to look at it from the longer term and also just understand that like a child is born today, they have to undergo these phases, meet their developmental milestones. I knew it that in under 5 years I could sit at the helm and continue applying myself. It hasn't been very easy. It's a very depressing journey. I wouldn't even lie to anyone. But if you believe in your dream and you know what you're supposed to be, for me it was not working for anyone anymore. I'd made that promise to myself. I never ever wanted to report to anyone. And I've never used to do well with having been told because I believe I'm a free spirit. I would rather just be unconventional and see things done my way than learning or even just bowing down to someone that we might not be at the same sphere of thinking. And for me, I look at all these challenges as impediments. I look at them that if you believe you're meant to be something, I think just follow through with it. If it works, yes, it has worked. If it doesn't, you would have still done something that you weren't even going to do while sitting. So from that transition, I quit work, very well paying, stayed another 10 months without a paycheck. Sacrifices were made. We worked with friends. Friends helped me build the school that I have today. It was through those partnerships, the sacrifice, we painted, we did everything exceptionally well that we set up. And when the time came for us to open doors, COVID hit, we didn't give up. We had birthed a thing that we believed in that was going to be a game changer. And 10 years from now, this is something that I can even tell people. You're yet to see what indigenous Zambians can do, what we ourselves as youths that this country has birthed, and the government or even just people that pay, the taxpayers, sent them, they contributed their money. I was given a bursary, so that wasn't my money. I have to give back, and this is the only way that I believe philosophically that I can make an impact my own way, my own terms, and we see where the world will take us. But further on that, I believe this is a call actually on graduates because the cry has been the last 10 years that EED, environmental education, doesn't do much. I think it's in the way we are applying ourselves as graduates. We need to lose the sense of entitlement and we need to understand that this is not 40 years ago that you leave Bunza and there'll be a job waiting for you. You need to understand that we've got all these other universities, and you being at the University of Zambia, I would rather have a bias towards my alma mater. I would speak to them, even these other graduates from other schools. We're facing the same challenges. But look at how you place yourself. Look at how you position yourself. I do not believe this is something that we even need to learn as a course. But there is so much content online. We spend our day-to-day lives hanging out on a phone. I would call it hanging out because that's more of a social framework that we have. And there are so many applications that you can use. You can teach yourself business. You can teach yourself. You can read on policy regulations. You can read on other success stories just using your phone. You don't need investments in terms of money more than you need your bundles and your camera. It shouldn't just be a laptop for movies or even just typing an assignment. We, I believe, need to use these tools that are easily accessible in airports. Because even at Onza, those that never had laptops, but there were schemes that could implement that. So those provided the choice and the chance to someone to access equipment or even tools. And how we apply ourselves. The first thing is diligence. You discover someone shows up for work. This is something now that I'm learning, and I've learned to just be as cold as they come. I don't take mediocrity. You might have your degree, but I've had better people doing well with their diplomas. But it's in the way they push themselves, the resolve. We focus so much on the 6,800 kwacha or the 9,000 kwacha net, which is even a joke at the end of the day, because with hyperinflation, you're going to discover that you might need to go an extra mile for you to even enjoy the comfortable life that you're dreaming of. So this is something that people need to learn, that you can work even on a salary that doesn't give you what you deserve. These are systemic challenges, and how we manipulate them all depends on us. So the belief that courses and tertiary education hasn't done justice, I push it back actually to social platforms in the country, the economy itself. The next 5 years will be very terrible. This is something that we all know. And with graduates, the example I gave is those in the teaching service. You've got a national placement, which is looking at 1,500. This is just like 2 intakes for Munzo. And you've had conditions now being set even on these very soft courses that will gain you a position and employment. So what do you do after? This is a belief, something that I have to even just say. People need to understand that you don't need to put on a tie. You don't need to look at how the system was 30 years ago or how things were done some time back. But you have to move with the trends right now. It's very competitive. So if you don't push yourself, you don't apply yourself, you don't have the belief actually. This is where even self-esteem comes in. And also just maybe positioning yourself to read more, to even also just be humble enough to understand that at a certain point things might not move, but I've never seen a 50-year-old graduate from Unza who never worked. If there is one, then that case is not even among us this generation that we have, which is just the truth, because eventually everyone gets to have their chance actually. So when your time is there, understand, take it serious, and if you have to use what you had, how many parents today, for instance, have kids that do not even attend primary school? There is a thing now which is very famous of homeschooling. These are concepts that we went to university, we need to understand them better. If you feel there's a need in the gap or a niche, create one. And when it comes to environmental education, I've worked in that field where I wrote so many manuscripts and also content, put out content for other people. But I decided with the school, like I mentioned when we started, we look at special education needs and disability in Zambia as something that is, we decide to walk past it. We don't embrace it. We don't have the pride and the courage to say we've got a child who's on the spectrum. So this is something we're trying to change. I've seen kids who are highly autistic, but very smart in creative arts, in music. So these are platforms that even as a school, we decided vehemently to run with a preparatory school for children. We believe if these guys change even in the way they value themselves, the way they see themselves, they're going to create change. It might not change everyone at the same time, but at the end of the day, we would have taken it a step further. Then we believe those coming before us and actually after us are going to see and realize that, okay, we are people that left university with all the skills they have, but without the money. And it was the people and interactions and also having genuine relationships and sustainable friendships that can give you value. I do not spend time drinking the way I used to when I was at campus. I do not spend time
You used to
talking.
drink
You
at
never knew
campus?
Even that was the other part of the curriculum that we had to understand. So to us, it was interactions actually. So this is the part where I tell people that you need to invest in your friendships wisely. Just now we've discovered we are 30, I was 22, I was 25, and you realize that the environment is changing around you. You're becoming more responsible. You've got so many responsibilities. So I believe apply all those things, even from the church perspective, and also just the fear of God and the Bible. These are things that you can read out, even if you're not a Christian, but believe in something that there's a supernatural power somewhere that is going to guide you. What you believe in might be a chair, but trust me, even that should teach you something.
All right. Thank you, Michael, for sharing that background.
Lastly but not the least, Geoffrey, what's your journey been like from graduation to
International Citizen Service Program that is organized at that time by Challenges and VSO. From the many graduates that have been interviewed, they wanted only about 14 graduates from different universities, and I was privileged to be among the 14 from Zambia. Then they brought in 14 other UK residents. Some were of Spanish origin, others were of Japanese origin, but residents in UK. So after that, our cohort came from UK and us from Zambia. Then we had to leave our comfort zones before we could even sit for our last paper for most of us who were in university at that time. So I was writing my last paper, having already secured a 3 months internship with our Challenges Worldwide as an international citizen, but based in my country of origin. Then in that training, 3 months, we were both interning at the same time learning business under CMI, Chartered Management Institute. So in the 3 months that I was doing the training under Challenges as an international citizen service volunteer, but in country, I got to learn a bit of business language and also began to do analysis and diagnostics like SWOT analysis, pest analysis, and enterprise diagnostics. With the combination that I had, my first placement was at BDS, now trading as a Gova. So we tried to consult in agricultural business for about 2 weeks. Then, because of we were crowded at one facility, then I was asked, since I had environmental education background, to move to another organization that was related to do with issues of the environment. So somewhere in September, I began my internship consultants as an associate at Westmaster. So this organization was basically more into healthcare waste management and hazardous waste management as they have continued to date. Then when I was consulting, it was more of finance, operations, and also marketing. After having consulted in those areas, the last day of placement was 17th of December 2016. After placement ended, the director of that company approached me and asked me if I could extend for another 2 weeks in that placement, which was leading towards 29th December 2016. So I allowed myself and challenged myself that I could extend another 2 weeks after the international program had closed, and we had wound up, gotten our certificates, and that was it. Then from 29th, I was asked to say, since we are busy in this festival period, can you report on 2nd of January 2017, so that we can just have an understanding and if you wish to extend your internship and this placement. So 2nd of January, that was 2017, I went ahead to go and receive my 1-year-long internship to allow me now to get to understand, apart from the operations and also marketing and finance, to begin to understand the environmental side of the business. So for 1 year, I interned that company and got to get exposed to a number of activities under waste management. Then from waste management, it escalated into issues of environmental consultants. With the degree that I had, the company saw it fit that I could actually be given both positions to run, because I had an understanding of operations and marketing, then at the same time environmental background. So somewhere in 2018, then I was given both titles to run the operations of the company and also manage the environment in terms of all projects that the company is engaging in and also consulting. So from 2018 to date, we have continued to run this company. Opportunities that I've had in the last 3 years, this is now my 4th year. If we include the 1-year-long internship, it adds up to 5 years of being in one placement. I've had an opportunity to travel countries to basically consult in countries like Malawi that are not so much advanced in terms of the environmental management policies and issues. Then at the same time, I've been to Zimbabwe to try and understand the environmental management acts and begin to critique and see how best we can collaborate as Zambia and Zimbabwe when it comes to issues of the environment. Then in this same 3 years of my placement in that particular organization, I've actually got to learn a number of issues that have exposed me to sit on committees like the Medical Waste Project and also Ministry of Health, where consulting as a company, but also as an individual to do with waste management. Then when you look at all these titles, a Geoffrey of today, it spans back to the time when I was in university. When I was in university, I got to involve myself in a number of volunteer positions and also opportunities. When you look at the time that mostly famous for the Kaimuketed vacation, so this was a vacation that was caused as a result of riotous behavior by students, and we were going to be out on indefinite closure. We did not know when we were going to open. During that time, most of the students did not know what to do, and they stayed home for quite a long period of time. But for me and a colleague of mine, Julius, we had an opportunity to use that vacation, which was indefinite, to grow our skills in terms of environment. So we worked with BCP as interns. We would walk distances, but just trying to understand the environmental sector and how it operated. Then, BCP is organized to do sustainable eco charcoal and all these activities around alternatives to charcoal. Then an attachment which I did before the closure that happened was to do with forest management under Lusaka's forest department. So now I began to view things from both the regulator side and also from an NGO sector in terms of how you can manage issues of the environment. As years went by, I also got to involve myself in outreach programs. So when you combine all these outreach programs, the business world and regulatory information, you find that they make a blend of a human being that you begin to see as they are eventually. For majority of the students that did not volunteer their time when they were in university, for majority of the students that waited until they graduated, the biggest problem has been they have not networked and they don't see any opportunities after they graduate because they will not accept to get 1,500. They are graduates. They hold a degree. But for somebody who is a University of Zambia student and they're on internship where they're devoting their time of maybe 4 to 6 hours in a particular day, and you are offered 1,500 kwacha, it was enough to see you the next day and probably look like you are making it as a student. But it was only 1,500 kwacha that we were earning at that particular time. The amount of information that we learned as interns in that organization, when we add the experiences of 6 months, the experiences of 4 months of internship at forest department, and the other networks that we had created, we are graduating not only with a degree in environmental education, but with years of compounded experience gained from various volunteer activities that we had engaged in. And I think for me, that sticks as one of the opportunities that gave me the job that I have today as operations and environmental manager.
Thank you for sharing that. Having talked about where we are now, I would now like us to focus on the challenge that graduates have out there in society now. We know there are a lot of graduates that don't have opportunities, are not working. What advice can we now give them to try and see some light at the end of the tunnel? Because it's either despair or hope. So what advice can we give them so that they have hope to a bright future? We'll start with you, John.
For me, the deed has already been done. So we cannot reverse what has already passed, but we can change.
The deed being
the deed being failing to find attachments when you are still a student, accepting minimum but gaining experience that was going to help them. So that has already passed. But the graduates now have an opportunity to change the future because it's in their hands. So what I mean is, for those graduates that have stayed 2 years, 3 years, and opportunities are not coming, accept whatever the corporate world will offer and see how that can build your resume. Then once your resume has been built to a certain level, opportunities are going to be present in your networks and also different other spheres. So for graduates that are not doing anything right now, do not sit back because you will sit for quite a long periods to come because there are others who are willing to get a little but gain the experience. So begin to make yourself available for internship as a graduate. Then once you intern enough, then you can have to see the opportunities that are presented in the corporate world that we are all but commenting on.
Thank you for that. Michael?
Okay, for me, this is a personal bias. I think we need to reach a point where we understand that we are faced with a myriad of challenges, both from the social perspective, the economy, and also just in our day-to-day activities. So the key for me would be invest in your mental health. This is something that people really need to take serious, especially with the challenges that the country faces and also the challenges that we continue facing at the individual level. You're faced with so many expectations that you're a graduate, and those might even come with other underlying challenges that you're presented with at the personal level, away from you being a graduate. Because with everyone, I think any person that goes to school or even just attends any form of tertiary education or schooling, we believe that we're supposed to live even just an average of what life is supposed to be. By this I mean meeting your daily needs, meeting your wants and everything. So transitioning between that period requires you to just be sober-minded and straightforward, understanding that this is the path that you're going to face. It might not be easy for some. Others might have the privilege of getting employment or even just raising capital funds. And this is the other aspect that I need to also just emphasize on, that it's not just about you working. There are other avenues that you can clear. For instance, me and Julius are the same year. We graduated the same year, did almost the same courses. He was with Impact Hub, but we met and we structured something that worked for over a year. We used to host online events, workshops, pro bono. We never expected anything in return, but this is something that today you'll be walking and someone walks up to you, they tell you that you benefited, learned something, and they would want you to continue doing that. And others, it's consultancy, but you never know the opportunities you might be creating for yourself. We are living in a situation where social media is quite robust. I think you can have a page of your own. You can start building on something. You don't need money actually. That's something that we need to move away from. Because if you start looking at money, I don't think you've got the liability that's going to give you access to any of that money, no matter how good your proposal may be. You might be a fresh graduate, but do you have the liability that other people might be looking at? Do you have what it takes for you to convince a bank or a financing firm for them to give you money? The chances it might work or it might not. Do you have that capacity to handle risk? But the example I gave is today for teachers. How many children are not attending schools? What is stopping you with the same content that you learned in NELT at Unza to move door to door and just talk to these clients that you can teach them? You can earn an income. I know people that are crossing over 20,000 watch are doing that without even paying tax, by the way. So this is something that gives you an opportunity. It's a mindset shift towards seeing opportunities. You might not be the best in terms of having entrepreneurship skills, but you've got YouTube, you've got all this literature that's there. You can read, you've got an understanding. You're a graduate, I believe you can easily adapt and learn. You can easily walk into a bank today and sit in a chair, taught in over 6 months. You might even make the best banker. I would say there's people that were computer scientists and who's in their bankers today. Whatever path you take, decide to have personal conviction, but also understand that our times are totally different from our clients, and our clients may never understand how things are moving today. That's a lot of pressure. But the first thing is just investing in your mental health. Have something that gives you hope and faith. It might be church, it might be a hobby. Invest in all those things. It might be a relationship. Make sure it's healthy enough for you to function and also just execute your vision. Have a vision board. What am I supposed to be doing in the next 5 years? I, for one, had a vision board in my first year. I knew that after UNZA, the next 6 months, I was going to go into my master's. I continued working towards that. The next step for me now is maybe growing the business larger, engage as many institutions to come on board, see what I can do in the next 5 years, the next 10 years. And who knows what we might be doing the way we are sitting today, because these are the same opportunities that will come I've got Geoffrey if I need anything to do with consultancy in terms of waste management. I've got him for networking and also just owning space to work from. You might not have an office, but he offers space which is something that you can easily access. We need to understand that at this stage we need to take away competition, envy. We would rather win as a team than lose as individuals, and this is something that I believe in. The moment we change our mindset and understand that this is not UNZA where we used to compete for grades, we are living life now. This is a reality strike. We need to understand that you can reach out. There's no shame. Actually, there's no shame. You can walk to your friend, find someone you trust. Others might spill your beans, but that's their problem. It's not yours. It's a people problem that's there. But invest in even these other relationships. There's someone you can walk to. You can go to church. You can strike a conversation. People love it that way. You can listen to adults and see what they're telling you, and also just ask on how others are doing it. You shouldn't hide it and have the pride first thing that I'm a graduate and now is Geoffrey doing it as operations manager. That's his race. Yours might even start 10 years from now, but you end up at the same point. And I believe it's self-actualization which we're all aiming for. Because riches and money will never be enough. Or even these titles and qualifications, some of us, this is the end of us going to school, but it's what we're going to have as impact that we'll live with for the rest of our lives. And I believe it's the time that we need to step up and change the narrative, actually.
Thank you so much, Michael, for that. Mine,
First of
what
all,
advice? What advice do you put out there?
first of all, I totally agree with Geoffrey and Michael. I would just like to add that for me, it's the small things. As someone that had sat on both the interviewer's end of the table and the interviewee's end of the table at one point, I was lucky enough to experience that. It's the very little things that we tend to put at the back of our minds. It's the little instructions in. First, I will start with those of us that are seeking employment. So you graduated and you're looking for employment. It's the small things. It's how you draft your CV. Is it making sense? If I didn't know you and I took a look at it, will it make sense to me? Your cover letter. There is a big difference between an application letter and a cover letter. I mean, I did not know that. But yes, there is a difference. And these are the challenges that recruiters are facing. And every day, a lot of people will come to my desk and ask, UNZA graduates, what are you guys learning? I'm like, well, I mean, they try, but you try different people. And I know these are things that nobody will really sit down with you to teach you, but there's so many opportunities out there to learn. I made mention of the Conservation Careers Fair earlier. We usually have master classes to teach these things. And people will be like, why are you teaching these things to graduates? Well, it's because there is a need. Recruiters are asking questions. Why are these applicants applying like this? It's a simple instruction. The instruction, put this, the most basic thing, writing an email, is something that even I struggled with when I started with my attachment. But over time, it's something that I learned because I have to constantly do it. And obviously, I have to learn. I'm not just going to keep making the same mistakes. That doesn't work. So you keep practicing, and you don't have to go. I think one of the two mentioned investing in social media. These are things you can easily Google. A lot of the times I find myself in a spot and I'm like, you know what? I'll go to Google and find out, because you don't have to wait and sit in a class to learn certain things. So if you're looking for a job, that is something that I can put out there as advice. Another thing is, I've seen a lot of people who keep applying for jobs. Whatever comes your way, you just apply, and then you keep getting rejected. That affects you as a person. To some extent, it makes you feel a certain way. Why am I not good enough? Well, are you applying for the right jobs? Are you, like, this is a very niche program. You can't just take it anywhere. Of course, there are certain applications that will be open and just say, I think social sciences, we fit in there. But you can't just, your environmental education, it's an accounting position and you apply and you're rejected and you feel bad. I feel like that is not okay. That is not, you laugh now, but these are things that people have actually put on the table and say, why did this person apply for this? And it's sad for you, and also it's a lot of work for the person on the other end. Here's someone that is receiving 600, that's an exaggeration, maybe 200 applications a day. I must go through the environmental educator when I am looking for an accountant. It's a lot. People don't even look at these things. So it's your email, how you are writing your email. This one time, I'm just saying, someone told me in the subject form in the subject, the header. Someone put the whole email in there and just attached. And it's the small things really. You forget to attach your letter or your CV and you don't follow up, and now you're like, but you didn't get back to me. You didn't apply, you didn't attach the documents. That is for the people that are applying for employment. And for people like Michael and Julius that have decided, well, we're taking our own paths and we're going to create something of our own. Obviously, it's challenging. Some of us would never dare. So that's to you too. So I feel like the little I have to say about that is there is a lot of potential for environmental education, especially in Zambia. If we've ever needed it, we need it more now. There is a lot of need, and there are so many opportunities because this, again, like I said, is pioneering work. A lot of things have not been done here, but they're being done somewhere else, and you want to do it. Like Julius had to get an idea from somewhere else, and he needed to make it work here, and he made it work. So I feel like my advice is just be open-minded and also work on yourself. The little things, show up on time, look presentable, speak well to people, leave an impression. These are very small things that people will be like, well, it doesn't matter, but I can attest and say it does. Yeah, that's all I have to say.
The little things with huge consequences.
Yes.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Julius, what advice do you have?
Well, part of the things have already been mentioned, but I'll maybe start with appearance. So, what you look like is what you are, and how that determines how you are selling yourself out there for opportunities, whether it is employment or it is just being invited for certain business opportunities or partnerships. So, how you appear matters, and this is not just how you dress, because you may give an excuse. Oh, I don't have a job, so I can buy a suit. There is second-hand clothing, and so that's not a valid excuse. You can just go in town and buy cheap clothes, and then, so if you have been invited to certain tables, remove those preconceptions that okay, I'm not at their level, I'm not. So for you, you have to be confident even with the little information that you have. When you graduate, the only experience that you have or traction that you've built over time is that of doing internships or attachments and those voluntary opportunities that you get to do. So how you talk about those matters, because when you find people that say, oh, I worked in the bank for the past 10 years, so even you, if you want to fit in, you say, oh, actually, at the University of Zambia, I was part of Onsaseda, and we used to do this and this and that. And I was given this role, I was the Secretary General, or I was part of this, even being a committee member in those small associations, the way you just come out matters. And that's something that I've learned, because when you are talking to people who are so much experienced, the things that, certain things, they've forgotten. So when you start talking about those things, you are kind of like refreshing their mind, and what you are essentially doing is close the intergenerational gap. And for me, how I have done it is to befriend people who are older, the 50s, the 40s, and those who are younger. Those who are older, it's very simple. These have contacts, connections, and everything, the older. But they don't have time and energy. So my currency is energy. Coming into the partnership for Impact of Lusaka, I had no money. I've never put in money in short. What I've put in is time, energy, and thinking. These are the only tools that I had to bring to Impact Hub. I've never put in any money. And that's how you position yourself when you're graduating, because if you say, I want money, and the money doesn't come. And then as you are seeking opportunities, befriend those who are behind you, because those become what I call the announcers. So these announce Julius before he even sees a certain opportunity. They reach out to you. Oh, you are Impact Hub. We saw something connected to Impact Hub, social innovation. These are the ones who are going to tell you, say, oh, there's this, there's that. So you have to position yourself that way. And then you need people at your level, your friends. These are the accountability partners. Oh, you said you're going to start this. Have you started? You said you're doing this. How has that gone? How far? So you need to position yourself even as you are looking for opportunities. You can't be looking for a job and most of your friends in the circle are not looking for opportunities. They've given up, and then you just become one of them, become like everyone else. So it's also about um, positioning. I call it strategic positioning. How you position yourself matters a lot. And for me, deliberate, I say let me not test money because this route of you can test, you can comment on this. When you test money, that 15,000 kwacha, 10,000 kwacha, doing what I do, it's not easy. You can give up in 1 month. Yeah, because the thing is, when you graduate, you find a 1 year, 2 years contract, then you are getting income. So what that means is that that income you are getting, it starts sustaining a certain lifestyle. And when you stop to go in, oh, I've started my own thing, that income disappears, but then you need to sustain that lifestyle. Because you are going to realize that actually you need to downgrade from Nivea to what's it called? Yes, I don't know. So, these things may sound funny, but things is the truth. Yeah, because you are supposed to go when you are working. Your job may allow you to go to a certain meeting using Orlando. But then you graduate, you realize that actually you don't have that 100 kwacha to go to town. You need to jump on a bus like everyone else because your budget can only manage a 12 kwacha, 15 kwacha. So you have to understand all those things. So for me, I had to say, okay, maybe let me not test money and then just get the experience and everything. For me, what I speak about proudly is the network that I have. The network that I have, in short, I can't go hungry. I don't have money, but what I have are contacts. If I've run out, let's say if I were to run out of food, there are people I can call who can give me a 1,000 kwacha, a 2,000 kwacha for free, not to pay back, for free. It's because of the way I have created and the networks. And it's also when you are going in the the entrepreneurship road, if you don't want to get employment, like I'll go back to appearance. You create relationship based on yes, there are higher than you in ranking, resources, and everything, but how you position yourself matters. Because if you are going there as a prospect partner on a certain initiative, that means that if you went to a certain meeting, you walked or you used public transport on a bus, after the meeting, it's just good manners in business that you don't ask for transport. They may have resources, but you don't do that. You don't also ask, you are talking about partnering, and then you go like, oh, in this company, can't you employ me? You don't do that. Even if you are employed, you don't do that. So those are some of the tactics that you have to start learning when you are going in the self-employment route. Because what happens that, for example, I have people who reach out to me and say that, oh, there's this job, we don't want to go through the application letters. Just recommend something. Handpick, we need an intern. And I'll just go through my contact, pick a phone call, and tell the person to send the CV, and they'll have the opportunity. So it is because of the way I've positioned myself. And I feel others can do the same. Because for me, when I was starting this journey, one of the motivating factors that for me, I feared the wrath of poverty. Because when this thing, so-called connections, I don't have relatives who are directors or whatever who are going to say, oh, I'm going to give you a job or anything. So I had to create all the contacts on my own from scratch. And the fear of not making it also made me to just be resilient enough, be determined, and knowing that if I don't do this, who's going to feed me? Because my sister may want me to live well and everything, but she's in Mongo. If she wanted, she can't send a spare bedroom to because no, it's not applicable. So she can just send her love. Oh, okay, everything will be okay, blah blah blah, and stuff like that. So, but at the end of the day, it's me who has to find these opportunities for myself. And then, as people are looking for opportunities, I'm sure, or I suspect that you have mentors or people you look up to. These people, they position themselves also very powerful, and they represent a picture, or they represent the progress of where we're going. But one thing we forget is that they can only show us the door, but they'll never open it and allow us to go through it. They can show us everything, or sometimes they may even open the door for you. That is maybe pushing you as far as the interviews. But it's up to you how what you say in those interviews matters. Like what you say. What you say in the interviews matters. How you draft the application letters, cover letter, everything, that's up to you. And let's say they've been given that opportunity to work. The mentor moves out of the picture. It's up to you how you apply yourself and how you network. Because if you give me an opportunity, 2, 3, 4, 5 years contract, I'm not supposed to come back to you and say, oh, Mr. Mentor, the contract finished. Now I'm looking for another one. It doesn't work like that. Yeah, connect me again. It doesn't work like that. So in that time when you create that opportunity, you have to apply yourself, be as relevant as you can be, sell yourself, and be true to the process and understand what you are doing. For me, it's about acceptance. Environmental education, I accepted one thing. I'm a facilitator. That's me, nothing else. And what I do is just about facilitating processes. But it's about being innovative. Facilitating what? What are the unique ways of facilitating? So understanding that I'm a facilitator and the biggest weapon that I have is the methodology of facilitating has brought me this far. And that has helped me in just knowing quite a lot of things because of the way I have applied myself, been as professional as I can be in almost any relationship. And that has made me to be who I am and has sort of like become my brand because of the way I talk, the way I view things, the way I even advise people who come to me, because I do have people who come to me that, oh, we need help with this opportunity, they need the CV, they need the letter, whatever, what do we say? Even friends at my level come to me for advice. I have this interview because based on what I have gone through, they're like, oh, okay, I've interviewed with the USA guy, so what do I say? Because for me, my work has allowed me to gain the confidence in terms of speaking and also in terms of representing myself. The caliber of people I meet and talk to is up there, and that somehow gives me the confidence and the legitimacy to claim that I can help others because I have built something from scratch. I had no business experience, but then I had to lead the team in building Impact at Lusaka, which is a business. And my prospects for the future still remains or still confined to the business sector. So for me, I feel for those who are seeking opportunities, start small. When I started, it is something which certain people wouldn't want to work for. But I still started, and like what Timothy said, in the little money I was getting, my brother at the time, he suffered a stroke, meaning he was not working, but you still had to squeeze out 200, 300 and send back home in the same little money and pay your rent. So at the end of the day, I think it's just about um, accepting and willing to start small. Like what Geoffrey has said, the deed has been done. Because 5, 6 years ago, it would have been okay for you to get 2,000 kwacha because maybe you had no children. Now today you have 1, 2 kids, so they will need to go to school. So it now requires certain ways of looking at things. So you have to, you can start small even at this point, but maybe you can even start going part-time. Find something that you can be committing maybe 2 hours, 3 hours, but it is guaranteed that you'll be getting something out of it. There should be money involved in the formula so that at least that becomes the traction that you use to say, okay, this is the experience or these are the opportunities. Because whether you like it or not, God is for us or each one for himself. Zambia doesn't have a lot of jobs, it is true, but it is also true that there's a lot of work that needs to be done. Like what the examples being given here, where you can start going go to door, you teach people, and then that's you turning the work which is there into jobs. So that's how you can then start applying yourself, looking for these opportunities. You may have done social sciences, you do not have business tools and skills or anything. You can go to these hubs. There's Impact Hub, Lusaka ourselves. There's Bongo Hub, Jacaranda Hub, WeArc. So you can go to these hubs. There's also Nyamuka Africa. Actually, Nyamuka Africa, they're starting a program where they're supporting ONZA students in partnership with Zanaco and School of Engineering at ONZA. And I'll be one of the mentors there to support the young people on how to become entrepreneurs. So for me, I feel you have to be intentional from the word go and know what you want. Because you can't want this today and you want that the next day. You can't say that, oh, I feel like I want to do the job. It doesn't work like that. Who's going to build the business? So you have to do that to build the business. You are the one who's supposed to create opportunities. You may not create jobs, but the least you can do is at least create internship or voluntary opportunities for others, because that gives them also an opportunity to create their savings. Yeah, because I represent a brand, and giving someone an internship opportunity at Impact Hub Lusaka, it means that they are associated with Impact Hub Lusaka, which even when they're talking to people coming from other countries where there's Impact Hub, they may easily be identified because they may be seen as one of them. So I think it's about how you just position yourself, yeah, and the willingness to determine whether you should test money now or not, because that matters a lot. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that data.
Welcome.
Cholo,
Wow.
piece of advice.
Advice. I agree with Julius. You need to start small. One thing I noticed that when people are applying for jobs and they get the internship, they want to get the salary of above 5,000, 6,000. I remember my first internship, I got 720 kwacha. My dad one day was like, why are you going for a job where I didn't get salary as a maid? It touched me. I was like, like, are you sure, like, salary as maid? And for me, I sat down with my dad, I was like, I know it's 720, but I have to get the experience. If I want to have that job, I need to have a certain experience for me to skill in this environmental education program. And I worked for like 2 months with 720 and had to find money for transport, had to try to see how can I work with this 720 and what's my end goal. And it helped. And apart from saying, okay, the salary expectation is the voluntary work I used to do. I did a lot of voluntary work at UNZA and Drive Africa. I used to get talk to them when I was 100 kwacha out, go in the field, interview people, write articles with a 20 kwacha money I'm getting for the job. And for me, it helped me say, you know what? I used to get 20 kwacha, 100 kwacha, I'm getting 720, but what am I going to get at this end of this program as an intern, environmental education intern? And it helped me to remain focused. And while I was working there, I noticed there's something missing from the social media. I went to the social media, I was like, okay, nothing is happening. There's no environmental education going on. And I always say this, opportunities are there even right now. Go to a social media page, see, okay, these people are they're not doing marketing well, branding. Go online, go on YouTube, check how do you run a social media page. There's all lessons, EADX. Do something, just check opportunities. What is missing in this industry? And you never know, you find an opportunity there. It can be a social media intern, social media manager, just by reading, researching, just seeking opportunities. And the other thing is networking. You need to network. Networking is very important. I can't lie. When I did an interview, well, the person is my operations manager. The person is like, oh, Chona, I remember you from Women in Conservation. that job I didn't qualify. But the fact that I used to attend events for women in conservation, it showed that I have interest. So you need to network, go to these events, meet people, meet high profile people. Tell yourself, oh, I have interest in this is what I do. You never know, they'll call you, okay, actually, there's an internship program, please kindly apply. For example, Tawanda, she got a call. Tawanda is an internship program. Kindly apply because she used to network. So you network, go for these events, meet people, talk. Don't just hide yourself. Talk. Don't also go in this networking. You're just sitting there at the corner. You go with minor. You want to talk to minor. They won't. No. Meet someone new. You never know through those conversations something can happen. You may make partnership never know you can start a business through those networking programs like ladies in designing. They came for an event here, they network. That after that event, something happened. They have divided more. So networking is really important. You don't have to expect to find a job. You're just there sitting at home. Just network and see opportunities. And I also have to agree with mine. The way you write your CV into your cover letter, guys. It needs to invest. I see application there's like a CV, it's not clear. As me as a manager, I have to wonder, okay, maybe she needs this. They don't have time. So invest in writing CVs and cover letters. As soon as the person sees it, it's like, wow, okay, I think she's the right person. They won't even have time to read other CVs. So invest in small things, network, CVs, do online trainings, a lot of online trainings that you can do, like missing gaps, graphic design, go on your social media page, like the graphic design don't make nice posters. Do this. Do a part-time job, get 2,000 just being a social media person. Just you being creative, putting nice hashtags. You never know you get a job from there. So support yourself, invest in yourself and see opportunities. That's my advice.
Thank you so much for that. We've spent a long time discussing, ladies and gentlemen. But I can safely say that the amount of knowledge, wisdom, and advice that you've given is profound. And I hope the people out there that are looking for hints and opportunities actually learn something from what you have shared. So thank you so much to all of you for coming. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and experiences. And we hope this knowledge and experience will make a difference to everyone. For those that are watching us and this particular discussion, thank you for tuning in, and we hope to come with more content on how we can help